Taralyn Rose. I am manager of financial fitness and coaching at California Coast Credit Union. I love this topic, especially in the new world. There are so many people getting money from side jobs. They're working so hard to find a way to make their time work better with their income, or make their income work better with their time, right? So it's really hard to create a plan for your income when you don't know when you're going to get that next money in. The people who work on commissions, the people who work on working 3 jobs on the side, working at Uber Eats or something like that, right? So maybe you get this money, and how do we make that work for you? So we have a lot of awesome tools that can help you create a plan to be successful and make sure you're living within the income that you have. Make sure that you're planning ahead for some of those crazy expenses that come when you have that kind of income coming in. Gotta love taxes. We have a lot of tools you can plan ahead, ensure your financial success. So at the end, my phone number is going to be on there. If you have questions about anything, financialfitness@calcoastcu.org. We are happy to answer any questions you may have, provide any tools. If you have a question about reducing an expense, I've got something for you. Been doing this now for 17 years. I was the first person who had to take advantage of the service because I was $46,000 in credit card debt. So yeah, I have implemented a lot of these tools and I hope they will help you. So we're going to start with the first thing we want to take a look at. Can you guys see, know your expenses? Are you able to see this screen? Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay. So first thing we're going to look at is know your expenses. We're going to look at we have to figure out how much you need to earn on a monthly basis to cover what you have to spend. Right? So we're going to go through and look at how much we need to earn to make sure we're living within the income that we earn. We're going to look at monthly bills. We're looking at our monthly variable expenses. We're looking at our debt expenses. We're going to look at annual bills and the annual variable expenses, which for me is where I see people get into trouble. This is the area that I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time on, because this is where I see over and over and over again, people get into trouble with those variable occasional expenses that pop up when you least expect it, but they are just normal living expenses. So we have to make sure we're putting that into the plan to make sure we're covering what we need, right? So we're going to gather some information and look at your credit card statements, look at your bank statements, and add up what you spend in each category, right? So we're going to start with our monthly expenses. And I have this really cool handy dandy tool that we're going to get a little interaction with you guys here, so you're not just listening to me talk for the whole 30 minutes. So we're going to start here. We're going to use the chat because that's just easier, or there aren't that many of us. You can just unmute and yell it out. I want you to think about your monthly fixed expenses. What are some monthly bills that you might have, either has a due date that you pay once a month, or it's a set amount that you pay once a month? What are some expenses that you have like that has a due date? Phone, internet, app, absolutely.
Car payment, insurance for the car.
You are going, yes. Insurance. Okay, now think small. What are some small? What are some small bills that you might pay on a monthly basis?
Car wash membership.
Ah, that's a great one. Yes. What else? What? Give me 2 more.
Netflix.
Got it. Yes. Those are the ones I see people do. And everybody was paying so much for cable. I'm like, oh, I'm going to cut cable and just get a streaming service. And now there's 50 million streaming services out there. I know I'm exaggerating, but I've seen people paying $350 for all. They didn't even realize it. Oh, it's only $4.99. Oh, it's only $7.99. Oh, it's only $11.99. And it just keeps adding and adding and adding, and you don't realize it. And you're not even using them all. You usually only use 1 or 2 of them at a time. You binge and watch everything, and then there's nothing else. You go to the next one. But I want us writing all of this down. And I have this really cool handy dandy tool that goes through some of the most common fixed expenses that we have. You put in the amount, the due date, and then we plan to pay it. That's what this is all about. So you'll go in and fill in the amount here, fill in the due date. So you're just gathering this information and knowing what your expenses are. It's a huge first step, okay? Now we're gonna think about variable expenses. And these are the things that we also spend money on, but we have a little bit of control over what we spend. Now, we are gonna do this every single month, but we have a little control over how much we spend. It's not a set amount. I can spend more, I can spend less, I can control this. What are some necessary monthly expenses that you have to pay to get through each month?
Toiletry, like hygiene,
Yes, toiletries, yes. What else?
food,
Food, yes. What else? Who has a car?
gas,
Yeah. And that is that's been fluctuating, so, but it's always been really high. So food, gas, I'm gonna add one more, meals out, and entertainment. So these are things that we do every single month without fail. But for gas, I could drive a Humvee to Temecula every day, or I could ride a bicycle to school and to work. I can live close. We have a little bit of control over this. We might carpool, we might get a hybrid. Like there are ways that we can control that, but we are still going to pay that typically every single month unless you don't have a car. Same thing with food. You have to do it. You have to spend money on food, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you can either do top ramen every single day, or I can do steak and lobster every day. You have a little control over this. So we're going to add up those numbers. And again, scrolling down on this handy dandy sheet, these are some of the more common variable expenses that people do every single month. Laundry, maybe you get haircut or nails done or brows done. Maybe you have a sport that you do. I'm a volleyball player, so I'm spending money on going to open gyms. And I don't go all the time, so it's kind of variable, but I do spend about maybe $20 every 2 weeks. Okay. You got kids?
Carolyn, I
Yeah.
just wanted to say I don't see the sheet. I just see the monthly expenses.
Screen two, let me try that. Is that better?
But yeah, I can see it now.
So we're sorry. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I'm pointing all these things out, and you can't see them. If you got pets and you have food and stuff like that, charitable donations, music. I love books. I'm a voracious reader, so I only budget $10. I have a lot of free sources. If you guys like to read books, I have so many awesome free sources for you. Just let me know. I'll send you the list. Tobacco, alcohol, gardening, lottery tickets. People don't think about those things, but they are expenses that people have, right? So now we're going to go back. Those are the monthly expenses that we have. And now I want to talk about monthly debt payments. So we're still looking at the monthly payment. If you have any student loan debts, if you have any credit card debts, I want to know all of this information. So going back to this cash flow plan, scrolling down to the next section is my consumer debt section. Can you see this? Are you still able to see this or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Awesome. I figured it out. Okay. So we're going to go in and we're plugging the credit card that we have, or there's an auto loan, I have a mortgage, installment loan, there's student loans, there's all these types of debts on here. For credit cards, I want to gather all this information together because this is going to help me make a decision about how to pay off that debt. I have to know the minimum payments, the rates, the balances, the limits, the terms. I need to know all this information so I can make an educated decision about how to attack the debt, because the goal for me is always to get people debt free and stop losing money to interest, because people are paying 26%, 29% on credit cards. I want to be able to know this information. So if I'm trying to be debt free as quickly as I can, I need to know the interest rates, because I'm going to attack my debt by the highest interest rate. Because if I pay off at 29.99%, $100 towards it, next month I'm not losing 29.99%, right? If I'm paying 10% or 19%, it makes more sense to go after the 19%. However, maybe I have these two balances that are $1,000 each. And maybe a minimum payment on this is 100 and on this one is 25. And I'm struggling financially. I'm struggling to make it through each month. I'm not having enough money to pay for gas, pay for food, and I'm struggling at the end of the month. So if I'm looking at these, and maybe this rate is 9.99%, and maybe this is 29.99. this, if I pay this off, if financially, 29.99%, that's great. I'm not losing that money anymore, but I only get $25 extra in my cash flow. That's not going to help me get through to the next month. Whereas this one, I pay off that same balance, I get $100 back in my cash flow. That's going to be easier for me to get through and just not struggle at the end of that pay period, right? So that's really important to know. Is it interest rate? Know what the payments are. The other way of attacking debt is balance to limit. So I don't know if you guys know this, but 30% of your credit score is based on having balances less than 30% of my limit, right? So if I'm looking at this one, each one that I get below 30% is going to give me 15 to 20 points in my credit score. So if I pay off this one, I'm going to get 15, 20. If I get this down to 600, I get 15 to 20 points. Pay this down to 300, I get 15 to 20 points. So I need to look at this, which is how much I need to pay this down by. If I'm trying to improve my score, this one I only need to pay $400, and I'm going to get 15 to 20 points in my credit score. Even though cash flow wise, it makes more sense, even though this one makes more sense, this one's going to be $400. I get 15 to 20 points, and I'm going to help open my cash flow. So that's where all this information is going to come in. You need to know this information. This is a really cool tool to gather all this information so we can make that educated decision about what to do with that debt first. Still gathering information. This is a big step. We have to know what our starting point is and know what our monthly expense needs are. Now we're going to talk about periodic expenses. Again, this is the area that I really want to spend a little bit of time on because this is where people use their credit cards. We don't spend money on the day-to-day things, but these are a part of our lives that we have to include, right? So we're going to go in and we're going to talk about some of the more variable periodic expenses that we spend money on. So click on this screen. And I want you to think in your life, are there any bills that you pay once a year that has a set amount that you pay once a year? If you've got a car, what's something you pay once a year without fail?
Registration.
Registration, yeah.
Yes. So the
Guarantee.
way to do this is my registration personally is $240. And that's really, really small. Let me make that a little bit bigger. Mine is $240 a year. I need to break this down into a monthly amount so I can see what my expense needs are. I'm going to take that $240 divided by 12. I need $20 a month to pay for my DMV registration. That is part of my normal living expenses. I got to think about it, right? So we're going to look at that with all of these things that we do. What's something else that you might pay once a year?
Sam's Club membership. Or
Yes.
Costco.
Thank you. I love it when you guys are thinking about it. Yes, it might only be $50, $65, but I want to take that $65 and I want to see equals this divided by 12. It's only $6, but it's still an expense that I have. So some of the other common ones, gym membership that people pay monthly, but they also have an annual fee. You might have Amazon Prime that you pay once a year. I don't know if you guys know this, but if you pay Amazon monthly, it costs more than if you paid it once a year. I'm always looking at, I want to pay less for the things that I'm spending my money on as much as I can. So if I can get to the point where I'm taking that $150 a year, I can break that down. So if I, again, take that $150, that's how much mine was before. So I would need to do $13 a month, and most people are doing like $16, $17 a month for monthly because there's a monthly fee to do it that way. So it's going to be better to do it that way. Okay, awesome. So you're gonna go through and you're gonna fill that information out, and on this cash flow, there's a tab, PEC, that shows you some of those common ones that we see. Property taxes, homeowner insurance, AAA, Amazon Prime, PO boxes. There's some people do, like I have Microsoft that I pay once a year. I should probably add that on here. Professional dues, you have to get certifications. These are all things that we have this amount. I want to see if I plug in 240, it automatically does that calculation for me, right? So I do 65 for Costco. So you'll fill this in and you'll get that monthly amount. And that floods automatically into my expenses right here. So I can see how that impacts my bottom line. It's a really cool tool. Now we're going to look at some of the more occasional expenses that we have that, again, are a part of our normal life. I want to break it down into a monthly amount so I see what that total looks like. So I'm going to talk about the first one that everybody, if you've got a car, what are some car expenses that you have that you might pay more occasionally?
Oil change.
Maintenance.
So oil change, what else? It's a big expense you have to do every 3 to 4 years.
A smog check.
Smog check, yep, that has to be done. What kind of expenses have you guys had for your car that have cost you over $100? I know you've got
New
them.
tires.
Yes, yes. So my tires are $800 and I drive a lot. I drive like 20,000 miles every single year. So I typically have to replace my tires every 2 to 3 years. So I have this really cool handout that shows how to break this down into a monthly amount. So I'm going to take a look at my oil changes, and this is going to be based on the kind of car that you have, right? I have a 2017 Kia Optima Hybrid. My tires, last time I bought them, were $800. I have to get them about every 2 years. So I have a $400 a year expense for my car that I've got to take into consideration. And if I take $400, divide that by 12 months, that's $34 a month just for my tires that I know I have to buy. They're not going to last forever. It's not a surprise. We've got to replace that. Okay. So we've got the tires, oil changes. I had one member who paid $3,000 for her tires and replaced them every 3 years. So she has $1,000 a year just for her tires, which is $84 a month. That is not, don't buy, it was a dually, a truck, some kind of dually truck that had 6 tires on it and huge expensive tires. Don't buy that truck. Mercedes, $800 to replace the rearview mirror. On Audis, it's ridiculous. Think about the car that you buy and think about the repairs because it affects this. 30,000 mile checkup, the 50,000 mile checkup is usually $500 and the 100,000 mile checkup usually $1,000. So think about what your mileage looks like, where are you at, when do you need that, and break that down into a monthly amount. And then the regular maintenance is windshield wipers, brakes, batteries, alignments, things fall apart. I had $480 for wheel bearings and a motor mount. Don't even know what that, well, the motor mount, mounts the motor. Okay, wheel bearings. My car wasn't working without it, had to fix it. So these are, you can see 1,165 annually on this one. What I would do is I would go to that periodic expense. Where did my sheet go? On that PEC tab on auto repairs, I would take this monthly total, 1,165, and I would fill it in here on my planned amount for the whole year. And it shows me $97 a month that I need to maintain my vehicle. Whatever your number is, you'll figure that out. You'll plug that number here and we'll give you that monthly amount and that will add that to your totals. This for me is like the most important part. Okay, so back to here. What is something else that you spend money on occasionally? Think about your house. Think about your room. What are things you have to replace?
Air filters.
What else? Think big. What have you bought in your house? Or your room? What's in your room?
A
What are you
bed.
watching? What was that?
A bed. I have a bed.
Right. So we have the bed, mattress has to be replaced every 7 to 8 years. It should be. Not everybody does, but it should be. We also have the sheets. You'll have to replace those eventually. What are you watching this on right now? I see some watching on a cell phone,
laptop.
which can be expensive. Now, most of these, what they have in common is that people will not plan ahead for their mattress, and they go to mattress discounters and they'll get 0% for 12 months, and they never pay it off in 12 months, and then it's 26.99%. Same thing for the cell phone. They get onto the monthly plan of Verizon because they didn't think about that it has to be replaced. We all know that cell phone ain't lasting forever. We all know that. I'm lucky if mine lasts 2 years. Very lucky. And the laptop, mine I've had for about 7 years, and the sound is going out and the screen is cracked. I'm gonna need a new laptop next year, right? So again, I'm gonna take, going down to the home expenses, that's how you calculate what you need on an annual basis. My cell phone every 2 years, how much was your cell phone? How often do you replace it? This is where you're gonna personalize this. But I'm gonna figure that computer, TV mattress, towel sheets, kitchen decor, glasses break. This is $13.86. I'm gonna go to that cash flow. Household items, I'm gonna type in that $13.86, and that's gonna break down to $116 a month, right? So this is how we do this with all these categories. Medical, dental, vision, we've got co-pays. Vacation, travel, who doesn't want to go on vacation? Fun, what's the last concert that you guys went to and how much were your tickets? So there's a good question. The last one that I went to, sheets, pillows, awesome for the house. You guys are awesome. The last concert that I went to, Blake Shelton, yes, I like country, don't judge. The tickets were $100. And I got a sweatshirt that was $45. And I was with my daughter. I went and I had some dinner, and I spent about $50 on that one too. And I had a great time. But $200, I want to do that again. If I take $200, let's go back to that PEC screen. The fun, $200 is one. I want to go to 2 of them a year. That's $400, $33 a month that I'm putting into my plan. I'm planning to have fun. I want to have fun. We don't want to spend our whole life working and studying. We want to have fun. But I'm going to plug that into my plan and make sure I'm planning ahead for it. We've got clothing, gifts, holidays. I have a really cool tool on that one too that I will be happy to email to all of you. Here's an example of how you fill this out. So across the top, you put your name and whomever you spend money on, and you're going to go down the left and think about your life and how much do you spend on these events. So New Year's Day, I don't spend money on a person, but I do go out with my friends and spend $50 on food and drinks on New Year's Eve. I might get a cute outfit. That might be another $40, $50. Valentine's Day, I've got kids. They're 32. I still do little Valentine's. I got a bath bombs this year. St. Patrick's Day, Easter, if you've got kids, Easter dress, Easter basket, Easter bonnet, Easter candy, Easter egg, Easter, it just goes like crazy, right? Mother's Day, cards, gift, flowers. 4th of July, we barbecue. Labor Day, we barbecue. Halloween, you buy a costume. If you've got kids, you buy a costume for them. And then you also buy candy to give out to people. So we're gonna get all these totals. There's Christmas, all the gifts, but there's also, I buy a Christmas tree. I buy some nice food for Christmas dinner. I do Christmas baking. We typically do a Christmas event. So the general expense of the holiday, I'm going to add that in. And then we go down to the other events, anniversaries, birthdays, graduation. I usually plan at least one wedding, graduation. Work, we potluck here all the time. I'm bringing stuff here all the time for our potlucks. So I'm planning ahead. And then if you've got kids and they've got a birthday, we're looking at their cakes, the decorations, that kind of stuff, right? So if you look at here, $2,650. I'm going to take that $2,650 and plug it in, and that's $221 a month. Now, maybe you're not that crazy. I'm crazy with the holidays. I've got to dial that back, but that's showing you how that impacts that. So again, that monthly total, look at how much that is. And if you don't think about that, then this $5,600 in expenses is going to end up on credit cards. If we live our life in just our monthly fixed expenses and forget about those, you're going to end up in credit card debt because that's where the debt comes from. Okay, so super important to go back and look at that kind of stuff so that you guys can see that. Okay, back to Here, moving on. I told you I spend a lot of time in that. Auto expenses. Okay, now we've gathered all of this information together. This is a really important part of anybody who has variable income. This is the part that the taxes, because if you work for an employer, they take the taxes out of your paycheck. You don't have to worry about it. But when you're your own employer, you are responsible for paying your own taxes, and you also have to pay a self-employment tax, right? You also have to pay income tax on the business profits. Most sole proprietorships have to file an annual return, just like everyone else. We do recommend paying quarterly. That's going to be a lot easier for you to pay that instead of getting this huge tax bill at the end of the year. So what we recommend is when you get income for your business, set up a separate tax savings in a high yield savings account. Like Credit Karma offers like 4.5 right now. As soon as you get income, take 25 to 30% of that and put it into that tax savings. So you don't even have to worry. It's automatically taken out of our paychecks. I don't have to do that. It sucks to see how much I actually earned compared to how much I take home. The gross income minus the net income. On my paycheck, I see it. You guys have to do that for yourselves. So it's really important to set up that tax savings. And this is a really great website, the Know Your Tax Burden. You go in, you plug in your information. Are you head of household? Are you single? Are you married? And you're going to put in how many kids you have, and it's going to plug in your income, and it's going to help estimate what you're going to owe at the end of that year. It's a really good way just to kind of get an idea. And some great information on that self-employment tax. A great link here. The tax center gives you a lot of ideas about what can be written off, right? So a lot of tax deductions when you're self-employed. You might be able to write off home office business, business supplies, internet access, phone and travel, deductions for retirement savings, healthcare premiums, your cell phone. If you have a special dedicated place in your home that's just for your business, you can write off some of your gas and electric. So there's a lot of great tricks. So go to that website if you're self-employed. Another great resource that I'm going to share with you guys, if you are self-employed, I do recommend going to, it's called score.org, www.score.org. I'm throwing that in the chat for you guys. This is for small business owners. That you can actually get a mentor assigned to you for your business, and they will show you and give you a lot of tools, a lot of advice. These are people who have had successful businesses, successful sole proprietorships. So great resource. They have free workshops that you can go to as well. So anyone who's making their own business, highly recommend you set up a free mentor and go through that one. But this is a lot of great information, and you're going to get a copy of this so you have these links to it. Okay, super important to set up that tax savings and just set the money aside. Don't take all the money that you get. Set aside 25 to 30% right away. Super important to help you take care of that tax burden. Unexpected expenses to think about. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one, but do you know anybody who's lost their job? Do you know anybody who's had slow months? Do you know anybody who's been in a car accident? Do you know anybody who's had some expensive medical bills? I just got rear-ended in October, and I'm doing chiropractic, I'm doing deep tissue, I'm doing doctor visits, I'm doing physical therapy because I've had a nonstop headache since October. So it's been very expensive, right? So that's part of that planning ahead for the what ifs. We do have regular medical expenses, like I have to buy glasses every year. I have to pay for the co-pays on my prescriptions. So those are known expenses. We also have the unknown. What happens if you fall while you're hiking and you hurt your shoulder and you have $100 copay for an MRI or $100 copay for the ride to the hospital? We want to plan ahead for the what ifs as well, okay? This is huge. Track your expenses. There are a lot of ways to track it, but this is really important because when I filled out all of my information, I thought that I spent about $250 on groceries, maybe $50 on meals out, because I really don't go out that often. And then I tracked, and it was $400 in groceries and $250 in meals out. Had no clue. Tracking is so important for you to gain that awareness. You've written down what you think you did, track your expenses for at least a month. I recommend 3 months because things that happen in December aren't happening in January. So to get a really good feel for what your normal spending is in groceries and meals out and gas, track your expenses. You're going to see all these different options. There's phone apps you can use, online apps you can do. I do recommend in the beginning, use receipts. I have this really cool, again, I told you I have a handout for everything. Where is my tracking sheet? No, that's not what I wanted. Oh, someone saved it in the wrong area. I am so sorry. Hold on a moment. I'm going to pull up the tracking sheet to show you. Actually, I can just use here. So week 1, this is a really great workbook. Week 1 has the tracking here. And what I would do is I'd get receipts. If you guys go to Costco, what can you buy at Costco? One word answer. What can you buy at Costco? Everything. I saw her say it. Yes, everything. What can you buy at Amazon? Everything. All of this shows up is Costco. So it's not going to give you a very good idea of how you spend your money. So I want you to get your receipts and I want you to break it down into the categories. If I go to Costco and I buy $125 in groceries, but I also get some windshield wipers, that's an auto repair down here, and I get some fuzzy socks for $15. I want to break it in. So this top section is my stuff I do every single day.
No, I wanted you to
And down
see
here,
that bed. I had set it up so you could see
I
the
got
red.
something.
Get a minute to look at it.
So here, I want to break this down. And that's going to give me my totals in each of those categories. As I go back to the plan, you're going to see down here on my variable expenses, it'll automatically track here for me. So it's really cool to see that total. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, I highly recommend you guys do this at least for 30 days. We are at the beginning of the month. Do this for February and see what your monthly totals are. You might be surprised at what that number looks like, okay? Highly recommend you do that. Okay, back to PowerPoint. Track your spending, super important. Moving on. Here's a pop quiz for you. What is an example of an expense that is unexpected? So if you think about unexpected, something that I am going to do or something that pops up. Is automobile tires unexpected? Is a car accident unexpected? New shoes, cell phone, or all of the above? In the chat, what do you think is the right answer? Or just shout it out. There's not that many people here. What is unexpected?
B, car accident.
Yes. Yeah. Tires is expected. You are going to replace them. Shoes are not going to last forever. My volleyball shoes every single year. I play 3 or 4 times a week. So I have to get a new pair of shoes every year. It's $150. So that's part of my clothing expense. My volleyball shoes, $150, my walking shoes, $100. $250 just for my shoes, right? So yes, absolutely. Go forward. Okay. Now, when you have variable income, it is vital, super important that you have a safety net because you are going to have months that are slow, but you are still going to have to pay rent and still have to buy food, right? So we want to make sure that you have enough money set aside that if you have a couple of slow months, the what ifs. What if you have a client who doesn't pay you on time? What if you have a business that's super seasonal, that in January, February, March, you get nothing, but in November, December, you get all your income because it's seasonal. Maybe you're injured. I fell while I was hiking and I was out of work for a year. I had back surgery. I was out of work for a year. So if you have an injury and are unable to make income, that's really scary if you still have to pay rent and don't have any money set aside. Same thing with illness. These are things that happen. Car accident, yes, 100%. And if you can't make income and you don't have any money set aside, that's a really scary place to be when you're self-employed. So you're gonna see on here, when you talk about financial gurus, they say you should have an emergency fund at least 3 months. If you're self-employed, you should have 6 months. I mean, set aside every single penny that you can put aside to get that cushion set up to increase your financial cushion, to make sure that if you get injured or you get sick or you have a slow month or you have someone who doesn't pay you, that you can still pay your bills. So super important. And now you've added up all your monthly expenses, you know what you need. By going through those first steps and gathering all that information, you know what you need on a monthly basis. So you know what your savings account should look like, right? Make sure that you create that savings account and you put as much money as you can. Create that cushion. Pay yourself. Here's something that I highly recommend when you've got variable income, is put all your money into your savings account and give yourself a regular paycheck. Regulate this, because if you're your own payroll manager, you give yourself that regular paycheck by transferring that set amount. It's going to be a lot easier instead of like when you have this big check every 3 months or you get a bunch of small checks being deposited every week. Just put it all into your savings and give yourself a set weekly, a set bi-weekly, however you want to do it. Put that into your checking account and use that as your budget, right? If you do this and you make more income, your savings will grow unless you're spending more than you planned. And then you're going to start seeing that balance go down. It's a really good way to also kind of keep yourself in check. Like 3 months in a row, my savings has gone down. Maybe I need to look at my monthly, track my spending a little bit more and make sure I'm not living beyond my income, because that's usually what happens. Put it into the savings, you spend too much, you pull money out of savings to cover it or use credit cards. But if you give yourself that paycheck and you say, okay, my expenses are $5,000, and you just throw all the money into your savings, and at the beginning of the month, you put 5,000 into your checking and you just pay everything by that, that's going to help you regulate that a little bit too. That's a really great way to give yourself a paycheck instead of just having all this money going in. So zero budget, this is a way that people can help stick to that plan. So you list what your average, so if you take a look at the last year, what was your total income? Divide that by 12, and that's your average monthly income. Subtract your expenses, track your expenses, make a new budget each month, make sure you're still living within that income. And then here's my favorite thing. If you increase your income and you've got this plan based on your old one, what I typically see is people increase their income by $5,000 and they increase their spending by $6,000, or they increase whatever. If you live within this plan that you had and you throw everything into your retirement plan so you don't have to work forever, that's a really great way to manage that income, right? So if you get a raise your savings, raise your retirement. Maybe say I get $1,000 a year, maybe I take $300 and put it into my monthly plan so I can do more concerts or go on more vacations. But I want to take 300 of that, put it into my savings, 300 of that, put it into my retirement so that I'm giving every single part of my life a raise. That's a really great way to look at that. This is a really cool tool. All those occasional expenses we talked about, I actually have a separate savings account for each of these categories. And so what that would look like, let me pull that up for you guys. So this is an example of one that I had when I first started doing this a long time ago. It's going to come up one of these days. Here we go. Isn't it colorful? So I have all these different savings at California Coast Credit Union, and I have these titles on my savings account. That's what the money's for, right? So I would do the same thing with your tax savings. Have these individual accounts. So that's what the money's for. It gives the money a purpose. I'm not going to touch my auto savings unless I have an auto expense. I'm not going to touch my clothing savings unless I'm buying some clothes. I'm not going to touch my annual fee savings unless it's one of these annual fees. And I get paid bi-weekly, so this is what mine looks like. You would probably just look at the monthly amount. But I have a household savings. I do $1,000 a year, health savings. This is my co-pays. I do have a flexible savings account, but I run through it by August. So I want to make sure I have some funds set aside in case I slip while I'm hiking and I hurt my shoulder and I have a $100 copay. So this is a really great way of giving your money a purpose and making sure that you're living within that income. I have an automatic transfer the day after I get paid going into these accounts. You would do it more on a monthly basis in order to make that work. Okay. We've got that going. It's a great way. And that's it. So final thoughts. These are the things that you do when you have this variable income. If I know what my monthly expenses are, I have a plan in place and I stick to the plan and I make sure that I'm planning ahead. That's my favorite. We call it the 6 Ps. Prior proper planning prevents poor performance. Plan ahead for your variable expenses. Plan ahead for the lean months. Plan ahead for what you want to do with the money that you earn so that you know what you're doing with that, right? So that we look at, is my spending helping me achieve that goal? If it's not, why am I doing it? What can I do differently? So always looking at that bottom line, and you can use all these tools. Again, that cash flow workbook, I think, is so helpful because it has everything on here. Here's my monthly fixed. Here's my monthly variable. Here's my annual fixed. Here's my annual variable. Here's my tracking. It's all in one glorious sheet that you can use for all of these. It's a great tool to see what your expenses look like. And again, I will email this so that you guys have access to this. I'll send it to Sophia because she knows who is there. Any questions about anything that we talked about so far? Was this helpful? Did you get some?
Yes. Yes, very much helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. There's a couple of other great resources for you guys. Are Enrich. So this is completely free. You don't even have to be a member of California Coast Credit Union. Go to this website and it is a money management resource. There's tools, there's courses, there's videos, there's articles, it's any topic you can think of, it has information on it. So I'd go check that out. And then if you want to look at some of our other workshops that we've done, we always record the ones at CalCoast. We do them monthly. And we put it on our YouTube page, so you're going to see a lot of recordings that we've done in there under the videos. If you have questions on any of our other, there's ones on credit, ones on buying a car, buying a house, investing. There's a lot of great information there. And if you want to take advantage of our service, this is a free service to California Coast Credit Union. You are one of our preferred partners. So we actually, if you join the credit union, we'll pay you $50. And then our service is free. We can help you set up your plan, go over all of this with you. There's no cost. We're all certified professionals. We've got 3 people on staff. Getty speaks Spanish. We're very excited to have her. We just hired her last year.